What's happening, everybody? Another week of Unleashed here. Welcome in. Come on in. Come on in. Guys, I'm just going to be fully upfront with you for 1 second. If you could, I think that we're on right now. I believe that I'm on right now. If you could have seen, if I had a video recorder of the last hour in my house, I would make millions instantly because it would go viral. And the amount of stress that I have just been juggling, trying to get this thing on. And again, I believe we're on. Yeah, we're good. We're good. And why am I having all these issues? Because my son had to go back to school. That's why. Yeah, I've never been a big fan of school. School. What are you going to learn in school? I'm obviously kidding. Hey, if you knew not about the issues before. So I think we're good. I think we're straight. What's happening, everybody? Let's get into it. Like it, subscribe it, comment, go to get all that stuff going. We're on X. We're on YouTube. We've got Instagram. Hopefully coming this week. We'll be linked into that. I'll tell you about some other stuff in a bit. Now, right out of the chute, here's one thing I'm not doing today. Now, you might get this, and that's fine. That's fine. You might get this in some other places, right, where there's a regurgitation of, well, we shouldn't have won this game. The Giants, 2 wins to finish the season. The Jets beating the Browns, the Falcons. Oh, what did it do? Look where it got you. I don't care. I've already turned the page. The page is turned on this awful, wretched, horrendous, despicably inept, grotesque monstrosity of a disaster, whatever you want to call this football season. And those are just some words to describe it. The season's over, all right? And I'm not going to relitigate it here. I got no interest, and you know what? It's not going to change anything. So we're moving forward. The choo-choo, going forward. And we are already moving into the next phase for the Jets and the Giants. I'm not running through anything that happened this year. It's a waste of time. And really, I'm going to give you the short version first, and then, of course, I'll expand on a bunch of things. So number one, the Jets, and this is, my God, this might be the most obvious statement in the history of shows, like the Jets' biggest issue, clearly, is that they just straight up stink. I mean, they got no talent. So the Jets need a massive infusion of talent. Number one. They're not firing Glenn. Not going to waste time on that. I said I wouldn't do it. To be honest with you, and I'm going to stand by that as it's gone on and the beatdowns, just getting ravaged the last 5 games. It's been unwatchable, but I have not allowed that to change my opinion because I know that they have no talent. So I don't know if Aaron Glenn could coach. I've never once said that I believe that he can. All I'm saying is I don't know that he can't because he's been out there with his hands tied and his feet tied. And now he has shown no real propensity early to be that guy. I admit there were a lot of situations that left me scratching my head. It's impossible. All right. It's impossible to judge him after this 1 year with no players. So I'm just kind of blowing past that. We're good to go. All right. So hold on. I'm getting the down signal here. Is this not up at all? Not up. It's not up. Now I'm being told that it is not up on YouTube, which was my great fear. We very well might still be on X. I can't tell. Let's see here. Are we still on X? Yeah, we're on X. All right. So we're still on X here. That sucks, man. I really wanted to have this on YouTube to start this show. But listen, this is going to take a little bit of time, and it is what it is. So I'm just going to plow through it. Trust me, if you know or if you knew how annoyed I am right now that this is not on YouTube. But, what are you going to do? It's the early stages. I told you guys that there would be some bumps and some things in the road, and here we are. All right, so with the Jets with the talent, all right, that's obvious. The Giants, I'm just going to kind of lump both of these together. The only thing that the Giants really need is a starting point. The New York Giants need an adult in the room to walk in there and say, hey, Dart, let's go. I got you. Everything else is covered. Everything else is going to be addressed. So if guys were falling asleep in meetings, if whatever, some of the coaches aren't up to par, if schematically some things certainly need to be addressed. Well, if that's the case, okay, then that I would imagine would be largely solved if you have somebody there who knows what they're doing. All right, so To me, the Jets just have no talent, and they have a coach who may or may not be the guy. And let's face it, most of the signs show us that he won't be the guy, if not everyone. But I'm going to give one more shot. Whereas the Giants, they actually have some talent, and they just need to be bold. And, when we were doing this before Christmas, I was giving out gifts for each of the New York teams, right? And the one thing that I said about the New York Giants is that they needed a heaping dash of boldness when they wake up on Christmas. And there is one mandate. If I'm running the Giants right now, if you have not coached before and you have not won before, yeah, maybe we'll interview you to maybe glean some information down the road. You ain't getting the job. So just understand, you're not going to be the head coach of the New York Giants. You're not going to be that guy. The Giants need to stop messing around, and the Giants need to stop wasting time, and the Giants need to hire a leader who's won, period. If they can't get that part right, they're hopeless. Like, at least with I would much rather be the Giants right now than the New York Jets. At least the Giants have a quarterback, all right? Now, we've had the conversation a lot of different ways here. Is Jackson Dart going to learn to get out of the way? And is he going to kind of change his style and all that other stuff? Don't need to get into that today because it is what it is. And if he does, he'll be healthy and play a long time. And if he doesn't change that, God forbid, the kid's going to get popped, then, the trajectory of his career could change. But there is no doubting that Jackson Dart has all the tools to be an absolute stud. He just does. I mean, everybody knows that. So to me, not only should the Giants be bold, but they should be incredibly selective in their boldness. The Giants' job right now is going to be the number one job that's open. Now, you want to tell me Harbaugh's gone and they don't move on from Lamar? All right, that's obviously going to have great appeal as well. But now you're also walking into expectations, whatever, which is fine if you can handle that. But this notion that the Giants' job, nobody wants it, I think that that's some of the dumbest stuff I've ever heard. Like, this search needs to be conducted with the mindset that we are the New York Giants and we nailed it with our quarterback. And if you would like to come and coach him, and if you would like to come and grace us with your already successful coaching presence, well, guess what? We might have a little something to talk about. I don't care how hot of a coordinator you are, on offense, defense, this recommendation, that guy said he's going to be the man. I don't care. The Giants cannot take a chance. This must be a 1,000% known commodity. Press conference, introduction, whether it's McCarthy, whether it's Harbaugh, whether it's Tomlin, lesser chance that's happening, whether it's LaFleur, it's got to be somebody who stands up there and he's got coaching chops and everybody knows him and everybody's watched him coach big games. Hopefully there's a championship on the resume. And most of those guys that I just mentioned, there is. And then you start the process of actually drafting talent. Now, while I would rather be the Giants in the regard that I think there's an easier path to become, certainly, I mean, they were kind of competitive this year. They just found the multitude of ways to lose. So I actually think that, like, that's kind of almost more appealing. Now, the Jets, right? So the New York Jets, believe it or not, and I know, I don't know how, but I know that factually it happened, to not have an interception is, I mean, imagine watching, it's not quite the same, but imagine watching the Yankees or Mets and neither team hitting a home run over the course of the season. I mean, I don't care how, you can go back to the 62 Mets. You could go back to, Buck Show. Well, Stump Merrill, really. I was going to say pre-Buck, but Stump Merrill's doormat Yankees. And, like, there was still things that every other team in baseball did that even those wretched Yankee and Met teams did. Now, they didn't do it with great frequency. And I know it's not apples to apples because there's so many more games in baseball, but my God almighty, that statistical blemish, only us, right? All right, so here's the deal. But it's not hopeless. So, yeah, it would have been nice to get the first overall pick and strength of schedule. Of course, we get screwed by much like the Yankees with Toronto. Like, it would have been amazing. The Raiders winning and the Giants beating Dallas. And of course, the easiest part of the parlay of good fortune for the Jets was going to be the Jets getting absolutely scraped by the Bills. Like, that was a given. Everything else, you're like, and I remember saying it last week on the show. Giants plus 3.5 at home. Wouldn't be surprised. Dallas, how interested are they? I was not surprised that the Giants won. I told you that they could. Never thought the Jets had a chance in hell. And I even told you, based on where the Chiefs are, that I thought the Raiders had a chance. So despite the incredibly low odds of everything working, and even the Browns won a game, that kind of mattered, strength of schedule, whatever. That was a very, it was a Hail Mary that the Jets were ever getting the first overall pick. But think about this, guys. It could have been a lot worse. Now, let me just tell you this. So I still believe, now many of you don't, and that's fine. I still believe that the door is slightly ajar for the Ravens to fall in love with Dante Moore and for them to shock the world and for them to take Dante Moore from Oregon. Now, couple of things. Why would they do that? Number one, they're the Raiders and they're dumb. Number two, that this offsets number one a little bit. This kind of worries me. Hey, our old buddy, Tom Brady, the guy who used to make our Sundays miserable for 20 years? Guess what? He very well might make it miserable again, because the likelihood of somebody who knows football like Tom Brady being involved with the Raiders, allowing the Raiders to pass on Mendoza, is incredibly low. So I don't want to present fool's gold or false hope. I'm just saying you never know with the wild card that is Mark Davis, all right? Even with the presence of the great Tom Brady. However, let me give you a little bit of a more plausible situation. What if Dante Moore absolutely goes lights out against Indiana in the college football semifinal next week? Friday, I think it is. What happens then? Now, I think it would depend on the optics of what happens. Like, if Moore plays amazing and Mendoza's awful, which is not going to happen, but just if it did, well, now you got a real conversation. I wouldn't. I would still want Mendoza no matter what. There's nothing Mendoza can do to diminish my enthusiasm for Mendoza going to the Jets. That won't change. The only thing that could change, excuse me, and that will change is the path and their ability to get the likelihood that the Jets could get him. So there's actually some good news buried within this miserable season, believe it or not. If Moore plays great, Mendoza's terrible, that's one avenue. If Moore plays really well and Mendoza plays really well, which I think is probably more likely, even though Mendoza outplayed Moore early in the season. I watched the game up in Oregon, inclement conditions. Moore didn't play great. Mendoza was rolling, clearly the better player that day. Like, if it levels out a little bit, there are reasons that I would actually run away from Dante Moore myself, but there are reasons why. There are reasons why the Raiders could still really have a tough decision. Now, he's very young. Now, that worries me. But when you're a young player, he's only 20. And remember, his first year at UCLA, part-time starter, didn't play well at all, sub-60 completion percentage. And then, of course, last year he sat and he watched Gabriel. And then, of course, this year, full-time starter. Okay. So the thought process very well could be from the Raiders' perspective. All right, we know that Mendoza's here, but he's kind of a finished product, which to me is fine. Like, his finished product is something that I desperately need the Jets to get sometime. Sound decision-making, big, strong, sturdy, smart, reliable, good arm, good athlete. Yeah, I'll take that. You know what I mean? But the Raiders, though, when they look at Moore, who is, Oregon, Nevada, I don't know, maybe that geography helps a little bit with the marketing. Maybe. I'm just talking through this. Maybe. That won't be the deciding factor. But if he lights it up and then lights it up at the combine, and he's going to measure well then I maybe there's a different discussion inside of the Raiders headquarters. Maybe. You can't tell me that there's no chance that Moore doesn't do something that forces the Raiders to at least have a really thorough, honest, transparent conversation. Now, because of that possibility, I'm excited about that. Now, the other reason I'm excited, all right, is that if they would have been the third pick, to move one slot, if they would have even wanted Dante Moore, which I don't, and I'll tell you why in a moment. Not because I don't like him. I'll tell you why in a moment. But the Jets got a little lucky by finishing 2. So now, if they're lukewarm, even if they like, put it this way, let's say Mendoza, he goes 1, Moore plays well, grades out well at the combine, blah, blah, blah. He goes in the draft, and the Jets like him but don't love him, but other teams love him. The Browns love him. I don't know, Mevrel. The Arizona Cardinals fall in love with him, which is very possible. One of those other teams that needs a quarterback. Well, now the Jets are in an absolute position of power. Like, I'm not drafting somebody I like. I'm doing whatever it takes to draft somebody that I love, which is why I would give up whatever it takes to get Mendoza. Now, the other avenue here is if the Raiders really like Mendoza, they like Moore, and the Jets offer enough incentive for them to maybe pivot from that real love for Mendoza into the like or the solid affection for Moore based on draft equity. Like, there's a lot of ways to do this. So, guys, this notion to me that, the Jets just got screwed and the wins were meaningless. You can't control when you win. I can't waste time on that. It's such a stupid, the conversation, really, guys, about tanking is so without depth, and like, I can't even waste time on it anymore. It's become so hijacked and misguided. It's a colossal waste of time. So, if you still think that pros, I don't mean GMs or owners who might want their teams to lose. That's different. I've always had separation there. But if you think that guys who are going out there on Sunday and are putting whatever they're putting up on film, okay, if it's not good, it's going to impact their livelihood. Or they're going to get hurt because they're not really locked in and playing hard on a football field, which last I checked is probably not that intelligent. They don't do that. They just not. So I don't care who was out there. The Jets tried yesterday. They're playing old third stringers. They stink. And the Giants tried because, they've got some players with pride. And the Giants won a game again. Yes, it impacts draft status. Get over it. Get over it. The whining and the incessant moaning and the bitching. I just can't take it anymore. You draft where you draft, make the most of it. So now let me get back to, I just had to get that off my chest. It's the last. Now, I will defend some of you in this regard. It's not like you pulled this out of thin air where you're like, oh, let me just start calling radio shows and talking about the premise of tanking. You did it because our awful football teams made us think of something else creatively. Otherwise, we'd have nothing to talk about. Really. I mean, you're not coming in on a Monday when the Giants have 2 or 3 wins in December. The Jets have the same amount. They get rolled by multiple touchdowns against whomever, whenever, but it's obviously late in the season. What are we doing? Getting on the air and talking about why the coach didn't call the timeout, with 1 minute and 12 seconds before the end of the first half? Or why he ran rather than throw on third down and whatever at that midfield? I mean, come on. There is really nothing to talk about in terms of the guts of football, like the X's and the O's. So many of you have gravitated to this new form of discussion. And again, it's just, for me, it's hit the expiration point. Others want to do it. Have fun. Knock yourself out. Not my thing. Because it's really so much wasted energy. Think about this. Going back a couple of years. The Jets beat the Rams. The Jets miss out on Trevor Lawrence. All right. Trevor Lawrence starting to get it together now. I understand that. The way Jacksonville looks going into the postseason, phenomenal, right? But do you really think the way the Jets O-line was set up back then, the way the front office was set up, and the ever-present ownership issues, do you really think that Trevor Lawrence would have come in here and just revitalized and completely resuscitated the Jets? The answer is no. The difference, or at least the hope this time, is at least you've got the infrastructure of an offensive line, which at least gives a young quarterback a chance to succeed. So here's the other thing. Because now the Jets have the second pick. If they love Dante Moore, well, then they could clearly take him if the Raiders take Mendoza. If the Raiders take Moore, I mean, we'll never be this lucky. I understand this is not Pikeville, content. I got to at least a little reality in here. So I know that that's probably not going to happen, but you never know, right? And even if it doesn't happen, which it won't, spoiler, Well, the Jets could say, we love Moore. Now, I wouldn't really trust the Jets to really evaluate anybody. I'm just hoping that somebody one day will fall into their lap like Mendoza, because to me, there's nothing else to interpret. There's still a lot to interpret with Moore, and I don't trust the Jets, even though Moochie's different than the other guys. I get that. I don't trust the Jets' ability to do that, and I sure as hell don't trust the Jets' ability if they do, even if they get the talent portion right, which they've done before with Darnold and Geno, lesser extent Geno, to actually have this staff coach them up. So there's a lot of things at play here. But if they don't take Moore, well, now it's home runville. And I know home run, you still have no quarterback. If the Jets trade out of the number 2 spot, and there is a team that loves Don, now he's got to come out. All right, he's got to come out. So the Jets at least have to have that ability to engage with other teams. Hey, they can put out the signals. Oh, yeah, we love Dante Moore. Oh, yeah, we're going to take Dante Moore. With never really having the intention of taking Dante Moore. And then what they, depending upon who they deal with, it could be a team that, right now is 13, 14. I think the Jets are 14. So the Jets will trade with themselves. The only team in the history of football, the Jets will trade with the Jets. And it still won't work out. But maybe there's a team that I'm not really factoring in now, a little, mid-teens, late teens, whatever, that could jump in, that would give up a ton, even more so than having to move up from the 8th spot or the 6th spot, whatever it might be. Either way, I think it's very advantageous. I really do. I just do. Let's see. Yeah, no, I got to fix that YouTube thing. I know a lot of you guys are chiming in on that. I absolutely get it. It's nothing I could do. I wish I can fix this. It's driving me nuts. I couldn't wait to start the show. It sucks, man. It absolutely stinks, but here we are. So to me, as I just ran through a lot of different things, right? To me, the Jets, first of all, stabilize the coaching staff, and that means at least get a defensive coordinator, wing somebody in there that knows what the hell they're doing. Number 2, find a quarterback, whether it's in the draft, whether it's a stopgap, whether you punt to 27, whatever you do, you got to find a quarterback who's better than what they've had. And then you've just got to, I think you got to upgrade the wide receiver room. I think you have to overhaul the secondary, especially safety. I think you've got to address the D-line. You got, can we get some pressure on the quarterback? I mean, forget about getting the picks. Can he get some sacks? Can he get some strip sacks? And that's really one of the reasons why there were no picks, because there's no pressure. Anyway, they got to do that as well. And then the Jets linebackers need a massive, massive upgrade there. Now, think about what they can get. Not to mention the Colts pick, their own pick. If they trade out of 2, how many of those positions you got to hit on them? That's a different discussion. How many of those positions will be addressed? Well, you'd have to think that they're going to draft a big receiver to go opposite Garrett Wilson. They're going to have to get somebody on that 3rd level, whether it's a corner, whether it's a stud safety. And I mean, inside the top 15 or so. But trading out of 2 gives them so much ammunition to do whatever they want to do. And then, listen, this will be a different pod at some point soon. I just kind of want to focus on the end of the season and the draft more so. But if you make that trade and you bounce from 2, you've got more capital to at least, and I don't think this will happen, but at least you call the Bengals. Hey, what do you want for Joe? You call the Ravens. What do you want for Lamar? I know what Lamar said over the weekend. I get it. A little damage control by everybody in Baltimore. Doesn't mean that if you present something enticing enough that you can't, get somebody to bite, So that's the Jets issue. The Giants, as I said before, is much more, I think, direct. Just get a proven winner in there. Like the Giants coaching introductory press conference, it's going to tell us all we need to know about the New York Giants and how they view football, how they view themselves, how they interpret this disgraceful disintegration into what they were, into who they are, who they become. Like if we're sitting here in a couple of weeks, whatever it might be, and it's a coordinator, and I don't care if it's the hottest, I don't care if it's from the McVay tree. I don't care where it's from. If we're sitting here and there's a coordinator being introduced as the new head coach of the Giants messed up. And the Giants' evaluation was not real enough. As they pulled back the curtain and really hopefully look in the mirror, if they don't come up, I mean collectively, we need a proven adult here who's won. If they can't come up with that, then I don't know what to tell you. I mean, then there's just really at that point, I would almost think, I mean, well, Dart would change that, but just in terms of like philosophy or belief in both of these franchises right now, because what the Jets have to do, there's multiple levels of execution. And there's only so many things you can control what you can control. I always say that, right? Control what you can control. And there's only so many things the Jets can control. They can't control, if the Raiders fall out of love with Mendoza, if they fall in love with Moore, if they love Mendoza, but really like Moore based on how he plays against Indiana coming up this week and the combine stuff. They can control how much they make the Raiders think about maybe making a possible trade and the Jets going up one spot from 2-1 to get Mendoza. And then the Raiders get a lot of draft stuff back and they still get a guy that they love. Like, they can't control that, they can't control that. The Giants can absolutely, and there's other things. I'm just kind of buzzing by this through this. There's other things that the New York Giants, and the only thing that matters is the thing that they can control because they got the quarterback already, And I don't understand, and I don't understand this at all. Now, it's going to be gory today, Black Monday. It's horrible. A lot of people lose their jobs, And obviously, I'm sensitive to that. And even before I lost mine, I've always been sensitive to that. The difference is when you talk about these coaches, they have made enough money, right? Not that money solves every issue. By no means am I implying that, but there's at least enough money, even if it's one and done. They've got guaranteed years, real money. If not, if you're a coordinator, 700, 800, 900, which can get you by get you through the day, or millions in most cases, right? So it's an easier transition. So as they kind of resume their life and their journey as a coach, they can pick up and move from Florham Park and go to Arizona and have the funds to immediately put down a down payment, beautiful home, good community, good schools. Like, that stuff's easy for them. What's not easy is obviously picking up kids and real life things that are a little bit trickier. Having said that, I've always been sensitive to that, always, right? But the Giants it's the best job. And I just don't know why many of you don't see it, because you're too wrapped up in the losses and all potential coaches care about. They care about, I'll give you a couple of things. Number one, you got a quarterback for me. Number two, do you have stable ownership? And as much, and then you get down the list a little bit more. Do you have some free agent money? Yep. Giants have about, I think it's like 26. Jets have 70 million. And the Giants are projected to have about 26 or 27 million. So Giants will have some money. Their O-line, it's not great, but it's gotten better. Not like it was, for most of the last 10 years or so. You got your quarterback as well. And you're a charter member, with great prestige. And you're the New York Giants. Behind the Yankees, you're the platinum franchise of the tri-state area, despite what you've morphed into, and I don't even know what that is. But you can polish that up, and it'll be platinum again pretty soon. Coaches know that. They're not dumb. They don't call the shows and listen to the shows and read social media. And by the way, when you, as a Giants fan, as you've been absorbing all these losses, I don't mean the last couple of wins that many of you didn't want, all these losses, right? The collapses, the Bears, the Lions, all the games that we went through this year, which was, wow. I mean, you want to talk about a new script. I mean, at least the Giants were creative and lost differently this year. Like the Jets, it didn't even bother making a script. Like the Jets, toward the end of the year, all right, what's the score? 40-3, 35-8, 38-6. Like, we're going to get our faces kicked in, our imprint plastered on the ground, and they'll just remove us in a body bag and we're done. Like, that was their script. At least the Giants gave you a couple of different scripts and they kept you guessing, right? But all those bad scripts, whomever's coming here to coach didn't feel it the way you felt it because they're not a Giants fan. They're a football coach, right? So the way you felt, and I've been there with my teams, the way you felt when you collapsed against Denver and you collapsed against the Lions, and like even the Commanders game early when Russell Wilson was the quarterback, just, some of the play calls inside the tight red zone, like how you felt after that game. Those games don't even register in the minds or the psyches and the emotions of whomever's going to be the next head coach of the Giants, because people who have already done the job well like a McCarthy, like a LaFleur, like a Harbaugh, like a Tomlin, just chucking names out there, right? They have such immense and unwavering belief in what they do. Like the conviction in their job is really without compromise. That's how you get to that level. You know, when you have a unique job like that, you gotta believe in yourself. And you've won. And even somebody in the case like McCarthy, think about Dallas without McCarthy. He won games without Dak Prescott. He won game, what was that, Cooper Rush, right? I'm gonna say Cooper Flag. Cooper Rush. They were competitive. And when you had Dak, you were winning 11, 12 games a year, never winning the big one, but incredibly viable in the big picture of the NFL. And that is where the New York Giants should be right now. Because whomever they talk to, it's not like, hey, who are we going to draft? Hey, what do you think about what quarterback can we chase? Hey, can this guy still play despite being 39? What about this stopgap? No, they got a young buck who is ready to run wild in the wilderness in Jackson Dart, who is incredibly talented. And I absolutely love. My only fear is the injury. But then again, anybody could get hurt. It's football, So the Jets and the Giants situations, we lump them in together. They're actually really different when you really think about it. Now we can sit here and say, as I create a quicker path for the Giants to become relevant, given the unknown aspect of pro sports, you could get the right you can get the right coach. We all believe you've got the right quarterback. God forbid it gets hurt, everything changes, and where are we at this time next season, without competent quarterback play for the New York Giants? Probably back inside the picking top 6, top 7. Although it's the hope that an accomplished coach will at least elevate the floor higher, which I know they will. And by the way, ideally you would love to hire whomever you hire. And I'm not convinced that the Giants are going to go for somebody who's done the job already. I wish I could look into this camera and say, yep, I feel it. I know it. I don't fully feel it, and I certainly don't know it. So I'm just gonna tell you what I would do, right? But one of the things that I think some of you have pushed back a little bit on, and I get it, but I think it's a little bit much. Like some of you, I'll take McCarthy. He should have won more. He's only got the one championship. Came up a little short with Rodgers, blah, blah, blah. All right. Okay, we know. We understand that. But to me, I also think there's incredible value of hiring somebody. Not that you acknowledge this, because you always hope that whomever you hire could be a championship coach. But, because Dart's so young, say if it's a McCarthy and it's a 4-year run and they're better and competitive, and say of the 4 years, maybe one division title, maybe a wild card, 2 playoff appearances, whatever. They're much better, aesthetically better, more enjoyable. The stadium sounds different, but you never get to the championship level, which is very, very possible. Hard to do it, right? They've only got 4 in their entire existence, right? Well, at least at that point, you've got like the inner workings of something that is so clearly moving in the right direction that maybe the next coach can just boop, like kick you in the end zone, because you're already in the red zone, And my fear, and they can't let this happen, the Giants. They can't. Like, my fear is that the Giants roll the dice and they go for a coordinator and he bombs. And he bombs, and you're not gonna do one and done, because the Giants they're so aware of how they're perceived, and it'll be at least 2 or 3 years. At least 2, maybe 3. And then guess what? Well, now we're 60% into the initial first contract of Jackson Dart. And as we all know, the model to really put yourself in a position, the economic model to put yourself in the position to be, most economically solvent and then have a really good roster is on the quarterback's first contract. And now all of a sudden, you look at, okay, and listen, if he's really good, you do it. You pick up the option, you give him the big deal. At that point, $70 million a year, whatever it's going to be. But now it gets harder to build out the rest of the roster. Look at the Chiefs. And, even before Mahomes got hurt, what happened to Kansas City? Their best players, right, aged out and at several spots, and they were no longer really the best at their specific positions. Obviously, Kelsey's one of them, and Mahomes, too. Now, he hasn't aged out. He just right now is not one of the best at his position like he was. You lose Tyreek Hill. So everything that you had is either less than or gone or now hurt. And because, and rightfully so, again, the quarterback makes the big money, the tight end makes the big money, Ford makes the big money. Well, now it's a little harder to build out that roster. You lose a little nickel guy here, you lose a little backup linebacker there, you lose a little offensive line depth there. That's what happens. You know that. So I will be stunned. Well, let me take that. I won't be stunned. I will, and I'm not even, I was going to say livid. Like, it's hard for me to be livid at something that is not personal to me because I'm not a Giants fan, but I'm a New York football fan, and I'm just a football fan. And, like, it's the same as, like, football's better when the Niners are better, 3,000 miles away, right? They just are. There's just certain teams. Football's better when Dallas is relevant. Football's better when the Steelers are playing big games like last night, when the Packers are really good. This revival with the Patriots, given what they are and what they've been this century, the dynastic Patriots. Guess what? They're back. That's good for football. And when the Giants, it doesn't matter if the Jets are good or not. It's going to be good for us, but it's like the NFL doesn't need the Jets. But when the Giants are good, the NFL is better. And if they are still thinking about messing around and hiring somebody, and I know the names, I've looked at them forever, I'm just not feeling it. They are out of their minds if they don't hire an established head coach. All right, I'm going to dive into a couple of comments here. Really apologize on the YouTube situation. We're going to get that rectified. Oh, something else I'm going to tell you guys. So I showed you the visual. Do I have it now? Let me see if I can pull it up on my phone real fast here. Should be able to do it. So at some point this week, within the next couple of days, I've got somebody coming here to my home studio to look at my home office. Well, now it's both. Yeah, this is my home office turned into my home studio to measure the back wall, to really see how we're going to do it. I'm just looking for the logo. There's a couple of different logos. There's a few variations of it, guys. This is one of them that I've showed you before. Whatever it is, that's going to be behind me. All right. So the jersey, some of the frames, the Patino and Louis bobbleheads, and that a couple of the Jet helmets and stuff. The Emmy, that will be gone, and then kind of rerouted to another part of the office, which I'll show you at some point on camera. But this whole wall is going to it's going to be less busy, and it's going to pop, and I can't wait. And then obviously, and I knew I was going to have to do this, but never more evident than when I was trying to get this thing set up the last hour before I went on a 10 with my son back in school. And I knew I was going to do this. I'm kind of kidding with that. Obviously I was going to do this, but now I am in the early stages of finding a producer, and it's not going to happen overnight. I've got to find the right one. I've got a bunch of people that are, a ton of people have reached out, which I really appreciate. Ideally, it's somebody I've worked with and somebody I've got a good rapport with, and they know me and I know them. So you've got that bridge of trust. So that's got to happen. Once that happens, well, now we could get a little bit more guest intensive. I want to do that. And then, as I've also told you, we have secured the phone number. So that will be an additional element that's going to be massive for this show. And I'm not trying to mislead you guys. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen next week. Like, these are, in terms of the phone, these are things that will be incrementally, popped in as we build it out and build it out and build it out. And by the way, if you are new to this, I guess I should probably address you on this very quickly. Listen, when it ended at the Fan, I had the option of kind of laying out, enjoying the holidays and just starting something today, or, seeing what transpired, or just jump in the trenches and start banging out some content. And I've got a lot to say. I've got a lot of things that I want to do. So to me, for myself, the right move was to get on right away, even though, especially the first show, you go to the YouTube page and look at the first video. By the way, at BT Unleashed on YouTube is where you could go. Like it, subscribe, and all that stuff. And the first video, I'm in my basement, and it's a totally different background. Even the Wi-Fi is not as strong down there, so the audio quality is not as good. The camera's not as good. When this thing has 1 million subscribers, and Lord knows when, that's going to be really cool to look back at that early video, especially for those of you who were with me, because it was and it's still a new journey. But it's for me, the decision was easy. Just get on the air and start banging out content, as I said, rather than waiting for everything to be perfect. Listen, let's call it for what it is. You can have a beautiful studio. You can have the best producer. You can have 7 phone lines. You can have the best logo. You can have the best budget. You can have millions of dollars of corporate sponsorship, which is, by the way, something else, sponsorship we are already deep in and very excited about. I can't tell you more than that, but incredibly excited about that. That's going to be huge for the show, and we're getting there for sure. But if you don't have good content, I don't care what you have around it, you don't have a channel that's going to do anything. I mean, no matter what it looks like. So I was much less concerned with what it looked like and much more concerned with getting on and just being me and doing my thing. So that's why, if you knew, I wanted to at least give you a little sense there of where we are. All right, a couple of comments here. Let's see. Yeah, I am definitely, guys, I'm very aware of the issues with YouTube. I see a lot of that stuff. I'm don't really need to get into that. And we're addressing it. I just don't need to keep belaboring it here in real time. Michael Carlett, 4204. St. John's men's basketball is very disappointing this season. They are. No, there's no question about that. I can't believe they lost that game Saturday. The Friars are not really good. They've got a couple of talented players, but it has been a very, very strange start to the season for St. John's. Now, they were 5th rated, and, that was all based on a year ago and the portal juice and Patino and all that stuff. I still think there's a better version of St. John's. I do. I definitely. There better be. I mean, this can't be the version of St. John's. And if it is, they're not going anywhere. I think I'm very confident there's a better version coming. I'm not incredibly confident to tell you that I think it's going to be the version that you expected. When you have Rick Pitino, eventually guys are going to assimilate and figure things out. And last year's team, if you remember, a lot of you were on Kadari, who was phenomenal. This is right around the time where Kadari started cranking things up. And he was a disappointment to start the season, no question. Got paid a lot of money, left Seton Hall, went to St. John's. And I remember, talking to some St. John's staff members, I'm like, we're going to get a little more from Kadari. They're like, no doubt. And they were right. And they went 31-5, and he was a big piece of the puzzle. I don't know. They were up 13-0. Saturday's game was one of the most disappointing games I've done in a long time. Because for all the years I've done St. John's, most of the years they've been terrible. So the disappointment has been tempered. When you don't really expect much, it's very hard to be disappointed. And I'm going back to the Norm era, the end of the Jarvis era, stages of the Lavin era, obviously stages of most of the Mullen era, and really most of the Mike Anderson era, most of it all, basically the century outside of Rick and a couple of good years here and there. You can't be disappointed if you don't expect much. And I've been very honest with you guys that I don't think they look the way I thought that they would look. And that needs to change because there are concerns about who they are and if they're even going to make the tournament. It's not a lock. I mean, it went from being, hopefully a 1 or a 2 seed and all the things that St. John's fans were thinking about, and rightfully so, to, if the tournament starts tomorrow, I have not checked the latest net rankings. They were pretty good, very good before Providence. I know they dropped. They got a lot of work to do. They got to get their act together. And, I just don't know that they will. I absolutely hope that they do. And if they don't, it's going to be a very, very disappointing season for us. There's no doubt. Let's see here. Build it while you fly it. Yeah, exactly. I am. We're getting off the ground here, adding a little altitude here, and we are building it as we are flying. Hence some of the technical issues. Michael Macias. I don't know about Harbaugh. He's had quarterbacks, tight ends, running backs, and receiver, and he hasn't led them to the Super Bowl in a while. I mean, you know what? That's fair. I think that John Harbaugh has been a little bit overrated. I've always thought that. I think he's a very good coach. Now, myself, I would rather have McCarthy than Harbaugh. That's me. I think for whatever reason, I think that there's more appeal and there's more allure for you with Harbaugh, the Giant fan, than with McCarthy. I don't know. Maybe it's the Dallas days. Maybe it's maybe watching him more in the conference with Green Bay. Maybe you have just more of a defined feel or opinion on who he is or who he isn't. I don't know, but I mean, how can you honestly, if you want Harbaugh over McCarthy, what is the basis for it? I don't see any basis, anything with real merit, tangible stuff. Now, you want to give me opinions? That's fine. I've got mine. You've got yours. I respect it. But in terms of like tangible things that I could point to, McCarthy's the better choice because he's proven to at least be able to win, and remain afloat and stay competitive without his main quarterback. And by the way, as good as Dak was under him and statistically, Dak's never going to be a Mahomes or a Burrow when he's healthy or a Josh Allen, or he's not one of those guys. He's like that next tier and pretty much at the top of that next tier. I like him. I like him a lot. I just think that McCarthy makes a ton of sense. So I feel you on the overinflation of Harbaugh. Now, one of the great appealing things about somebody like Harbaugh here is that hold on one sec, guys. Is that I think okay, we're good. Is that you know that you're getting somebody who's going to come in here, and you would say the same thing about John Harbaugh. I think the difference with McCarthy, I would have to think after being out of the game for a year, I would have to think that he's been revitalized here. Not dissimilar. I don't think it's that dissimilar to when is going back years into a different sport. Rick Carlisle did the same thing. When I was in Detroit, one of my early radio jobs, shout out to Detroit, love Detroit. And Rick was coaching them. That was Ben Wallace and Rip Hamilton. And first year was Jerry Stackhouse. Then they moved on from him. They got Chauncey Billups, and they were really, really, really good. And then Larry Brown's team wound up winning the championship with really the DNA and the entire blueprint set forth by Carlisle. Anyway, I knew Rick really well. And I loved him, but he was a little rough around the edges, around the building. And, he wasn't into the small talk and, walking around and, maybe talking to all the receptionists and, having small talk by the water cooler. He was on a mission and he was kind of to himself. And that rubbed a lot of people in the building the wrong way. And he got unjustly fired, right? Then he sat out a year and he kind of recrafted his image. Now, he did that by going on TV. McCarthy hasn't really done that. But I think it's really good, especially when you're really good like McCarthy is. All right, let me just decompress a little bit here and let me self-evaluate, because smart people do that. They look in the mirror and they don't say what they want to say and they don't see what they want to see. Smart people say what they need to see and see what they need to see. And that, to me, is the impetus to change. And Mike McCarthy doesn't need to change that much. He's pretty damn good. Like, the Mike McCarthy slander is insane to me. Like, if the Giants came out tonight and said, McCarthy's our guy, I would say tomorrow, hopefully we're back up on YouTube, I would say, bang, awesome job, Giants. You nailed it. Now, would I stop short of saying a home run? I would, because I don't think there's any home run higher. Who is the home run higher? John Harbaugh's not. Well, you can't win a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson. I mean, how come nobody knocks John Harbaugh the way they kick around Mike McCarthy? Like, that's one thing I mean. The court of public opinion has been, I think, unfair to McCarthy and has unjustly elevated Harbaugh. Not that Harbaugh should be downgraded, but he should not be elevated past McCarthy. What is the reason for that? I don't know. I've even heard some people say, and this is just straight up wrong. I've even heard people say, I'm not saying this, to be clear. He looks like a slob. He doesn't look the part. What? Dude, is this a runway or is this a sideline? He doesn't look the part. Give me a coach, all right, any day of the week. Give me a football coach. I don't care if you're 190 pounds or 260 pounds. I don't even know if he weighs that. I'm just saying, other end of the spectrum. Rex, right? Whatever Rex is. I don't want Rex now as the coach, but Rex then. You know what I mean? Give me that guy who's got a hoodie on, visor, no visor, whatever. It's freezing out, but he's not all bundled up like a little wuss. He's a football coach. He's a man out there. And McCarthy is a football man. And by the way, so is John Harbaugh. But they need to be measured like on the same scale. And you would think that John Harbaugh's got 3 championships and Lamar's a 3-time Super Bowl. He's got none with Lamar. I just don't, I don't get that. So that bothers me and that annoys me. Hence the little tirade there. All right. How the hell is Joe? I mean, come on. His name is Joe Shane, not Joe Schmo. By the way, what do we have? About 4,000 live views without YouTube. All right. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. The YouTube had a little issue here. We'll get to it. I promise you. I'm not going to keep resetting that, but I promise we think we're going to get that here. Let's see here. That was now at 10. Okay. So I mean, are we not on the air? Wait, so yeah, we're on Twitter. I got you. I knew that. Thank you. Oh, God Almighty here. Oh man, you guys know what I'm dealing with. Oh man, get back from school, buddy. Help me out. Mommy doesn't know what she's doing. It's mommy's fault. I just passed the buck to mommy. He called him Joe Schmo. Come on, show a little respect. But the comment was, why in the world is Joe Shane being brought back? Well, that's where I'll stop with the respect. He shouldn't be. I mean, under any normal measurement or any fair evaluation of the Giants general manager job, Joe Shane should be out on his behind today. Just that's that simple. That's it. Nothing else to discuss, nothing else to evaluate. I'm not bringing him back if I own the Giants, if I ran the Giants, but that's me. I don't. It's amazing. First it was Wink's fault, and Wink was, trying to kind of step around and take some of the power from Daboll. I got to get rid of this guy. Too big of a personality. Personality not good. Taking the oxygen out of the room. Meanwhile, phenomenal defensive asset, and they haven't been the same since. All right, so let's move on from Wink. All right. Well, then obviously Bowen was a disaster, so you had to move on from him. Daboll, Darce looked pretty good, but just can't win. Got to get rid of the head coach, and I know you had to get rid of him as well. God, like how many times you get to avoid that dart? Not the Jackson dart, the actual dart on the board. Like Shane is just very, very adept at having himself be the target. And that shouldn't be the case. They should be starting over. I mean, if you want to tell me McCarthy or even Harbaugh, somebody that's done the job already says, yep, I can work with him for a year. That's fine. As long as we, I've got equal say, or however the power and the juice is going to be redistributed with a coach who's got some accomplishments. Like a rookie coordinator's not getting that juice. But if another reason why I wouldn't hire that kind of person. But if it's somebody who's done something before, maybe they they have to get it written in the contract that their power or they've got final say with certain things which would usurp the general manager. And then, maybe that's the case. And then if it doesn't work out, even if the product on the field is better, which I would imagine that it will be with a real coach, well, then you can move on from Shane. And that real coach very well might have somebody in the NFL that he's already worked with. And then maybe that's a match, an unconventional match. The timeline's not perfect. I wouldn't do that, but maybe they could. So I don't know. Whereas with the Jets, and, it's funny, I've done more on the Giants here. Because to me, that there's more to say, and I'm going to do a million shows on what the Jets should do. But there's just to me, that's the first point of emphasis right now. It's not, oh, why did they win these two games? Oh, why don't we have the first or second pick? What did we do? Oh, God. It is who we hiring. That's it. Who's going to be the head coach? That is all. If I'm a Giants fan, that is all I care about now. That is it. Now, the reason why the Jets is far more nuanced, that discussion, is because there's just so many variables, guys, that I'm not yet sure about. Again, I don't know if the Raiders are so deeply immersed in their love for Mendoza that it doesn't matter what Dante Moore does in the semifinal coming up this, by the way, against Indiana. Can you have a better script? That is straight up awesome. That's a gift from the college football gods. Indiana, Oregon, number 1, number 2 QB. What? I mean, that is great stuff. I can't wait for that. I might do a live watch with that game, actually. That's something I've got to investigate. Maybe I'll do a little live watch party, only if I can do it on YouTube. Got to make sure we get that up by then. And if it's not up by then I'm going to have to, you're going to be very, very, very unhappy BT, right? But I don't know what they think of Mendoza. I don't know what they think of Moore. I don't know if Moore's coming out. I don't know if the Jets think of Moore. I mean, I know if the Jets should think of Mendoza, but you never really know until you know. So there's just variables there. And then, the one thing that I will say, which does give me real, here we go, regenerating here as a Jets fan. Sal would always laugh at that, right? Have these moments of craziness, and then he's starting to regenerate. BT's coming back. Yeah, I mean, that's part of the dynamic of my Jet fandom here, hence the whole unkillable and unkillable to unleash, the whole transition. But the unkillable premise was always about, Hey, man, no matter how bad it is, no matter what you do to us, we're always getting up and we'll probably get knocked down again. We're going to get back up, knocked down again, get back up. Like we're just going to keep going. You're not going to kill us. We're unkillable. All right. So that was all that. And as I get into that stage now of regeneration, I really do think that unless they love more and more comes out and the Raiders take Mendoza, what the Jets can get from moving out of 2 to wherever with somebody who wants more, I mean, is something that could revitalize that roster and change it for the next decade. I mean, really, when you think about what now again, a lot of this, well, at all prep, do they love more? I don't know. But if let's work under the assumption that Moore comes out and the Jets love him, all right? And they take him just for a moment at number 2. Well, now you don't have to take the draft equity from 2027. You're not going to tap into that and move up to get Dante Moore. Don't have to. Second overall pick. That works out. Again, all under the premise that they love him. And I don't know if that's the case, but I'm going to cross that bridge now. So you take a quarterback you love, and you haven't touched Cowboys' second-round pick, your second-round pick, the other first-round pick for the Colts this year, the 3 next year. Think about what you can do. And as much as the season has been, wow. We already know they've got at least some good players on the O-line. Garrett Wilson's a stud. Mason Taylor, I think, is a blossoming stud. Malachi Moore, I really think he distinguished himself. Like, good pick by Muji there. And, I would retain Hall and give him whatever, around 10, 11 million, whatever the numbers. They got $70 million in cap space. Figure it out. I'll let Muji do that. So you got talent there. Braylon Allen's coming back. It's not like you have zero talent. You just need a lot more on defense and a big body opposite Garrett, another old lineman, and obviously a decent quarterback. So you need a lot, but there's at least a roadmap to becoming functional, right? And by not having to give up those other picks to move up to get the quarterback that you so desperately need, now you can go about addressing that conventionally, and that is incredibly appealing. Now, let me let you in on this. What if Moore does not come out? And listen, if I'm Dante Moore, I probably shouldn't have said this before. If I'm Dante Moore and the Jets have the second pick, which they do, I'm not coming out. There's no way in hell I'm going to the Jets if I'm Dante Moore. Pass, peace. All I do is, I will need, how much NIL money did I make this year? I don't know, 5, 8, whatever. I'm going to need 10 or 12.5 million dollars, and I will come back to Oregon. Click. And I promise you, somebody in the Oregon community is going to get out that check, $12.5 million, pay to the order of Dante Moore. Here you go. He's a Duck again, one more year. And then the Jets won't even have the option. Okay, now, that would suck. Not even that I love or want Dante Moore. But, man, this could work out. This could be a home run. If somebody loves Dante Moore comes out, Jets aren't predisposed to taking him at 2, and somebody loves him. And, by the way, there's a lot to like. I'm just terrified that the Jets will ruin him because he's 20 and because he's an inexperienced. When you look at Mendoza's, he's played a lot of football. As I chronicled before, Dante Moore is not sat. He was a struggling starter at UCLA year 1, sat last year behind Dylan Gabriel. Obviously, this year, full-time starter, played very well, very well. Even the last game against Texas Tech, great defense. Wait, hold on. His first half was. One of his halves was really good, and the other half was fairly pedestrian. I'm not saying there's no concerns with him, but somebody's going to love him. 20 years old, projected upside. He is 6'3", put on some more weight. I don't know that he's got the body type like Mendoza to absorb that weight. That worries me from a Jets perspective, but let somebody else do that and evaluate that. And if he comes out and somebody is on a mission to get him, the Jets are going to explode with draft picks. They haven't touched anything in 2027. 1, 2, 3 first-round picks. They haven't touched anything this year. Oh, yeah. So let's say, I'm just throwing it out, we're going to go from 2 to 6 or 2 to 7 or 2 to 9, whatever it might be. We've already got the Colts at, I think, 14 or 15, right? I know that changed. 14, I think it is, for the non-playoff teams. Let's say 14. The Jets go from 2 to whatever, get another first-round pick. I mean, and multiple second-round picks. You are like, if you can't build a roster at that point, then it's officially time to give up. Then I might be killed by the Jets. Like, I mean, it's one thing to draft the quarterback and fail him because your coach stinks and your line's awful and your GM is awful and your owner is a dope and all the other things that have plagued the Jets. Like, that's one thing. But it's quite another to at least have, which for them, outside of quarterback, has proven to be most elusive, an offensive line. And I would say for myself, they need one more. And the anticipated growth of the two bookends on the left and the right side with both of those young players who I love, right? So with M'Boot on the right and Fashanu on the left side, Olu Fashanu. With the anticipated, a little stronger, a little bit more, okay, they did this to me last year with the hands and the swim move, go to school a little bit. Like, I think the Jets online next year, Tippmann got the extension. I like him. They like him, more importantly. He seems to be a culture guy. Like, on a scale of 1 to 10, I think right now the Jets overall line is about an 8. Their rushing is probably about a 9. Their pass protection is probably about a 7 or maybe less, but I can't really tell because Brady Cook is so indecisive. Nobody's open. So the sacks, what's his fault? What's not? Like, your head wants to spin. You just know that he's not seeing things that he should. So it's really hard to get an honest evaluation. And without Garrett Wilson and without Mason Taylor, nobody's really getting open. It's just a lot of problems here. The point is, if the Jets can't build out a roster with this situation, with an O-line already in place where that doesn't have to be, all right, we have to take that left tackle, in the top 5. We've got to find that right tackle in the top 10, or top 12, like they did with M'Boot. Like, come on. Like, that is on autopilot right now. The Jets' offensive line does not need to be addressed on a serious level. When was the last time we could say that? The last time that they were good. So how about that commonality? Let's see. Did the Jets have a star quarterback when they were really good? No, they didn't. Did the Jets run the ball very well when they were good? Yep, they ran the ball really well. A couple of different versions. LT, Thomas Jones, we know that. How was the Jets' offensive line back then with Rex? Fantastic. That's why they won. And then obviously you had ballers and gamers like Bart and just, obviously Revis, who was amazing before he ripped up his knee and came back and was fat and wasn't quite the same player. And obviously, just not a, honestly, I'm not a Revis guy, but that's a sore spot for me, Revis. Like, think about this. The Jets have such a dearth of like all-time franchise players, right? Like, and just faces. You go to the stadium and even growing up, Weeb Eubank. All right, shout out to Weeb. Never saw him coach a game. The great Joe Namath. Everybody talks about Joe Namath. Oh, the great Joe. And shout out to Joe. Amazing. Never saw him play. I mean, all I saw Joe do was whiz commercials and tweet about how the Jets are still going to be competitive. Now, I love Joe, but like Joe Namath hasn't done a damn thing for me, except come on my show a few times in the past, which I appreciate. From a football point of view, it doesn't mean anything. Like, Darrelle Revis is truly one of the best corners of all time. That's not hyperbolic. That's not some jet slant. He is one of the best corners in the history of football, period. If you don't agree with that, that's your problem, not mine. All right, I'm moving on. And I move on to this. It should be such a point of affection, like one of the best, even for a team that didn't win anything, like almost like a Mattingly kind of thing, where when Mattingly was right, Mattingly was an MVP, absolutely best player in baseball for a couple of years. Things went awry. We love Donnie. If you're a Yankee fan, you saw him play, you love him. The affection is as strong for him as anybody out there in any sport. If you're a Yankee fan and you're around my age, a little older, a little younger, right? And Revis, to me, would still have that same affection, but for me, he doesn't because of winning with the Patriots. And, when he came back to us, it was a money grab, and he was definitely out of shape. And I'm not here to body shame the guy, but he wasn't ready to play football. So even like one of the great luminaries of the Jets, I can't even get all excited about because of the history that I just mentioned. I mean, it's painful. Nobody's here saying it's not painful. It is absolutely without reward, all right? It really is. But I'm going to leave you with this here, all right? By the way, what I'm going to do, rather than just air all the content here, I was planning on getting into some Yankee and Met hot stove stuff, and even the Knicks recent slide, losing 3 straight games, right? I'm trying to get the YouTube stuff up. I want to be able to interact with that. I don't want to just throw it all out there now. If I can't do it tonight, and hopefully it's figured out, maybe I'll just record something, upload it, hit that other stuff, and get that up on YouTube. So, long story short, I've got to navigate what's going on YouTube, and we will do that for you. But I think maybe later I can do something that I planned on doing. But I will at least leave you with this pertaining to the football part of the conversation. The Jets stuff is out there. The Giants stuff is out there. If you want to react, by all means, hey, let everybody know about the show. When you go to YouTube, at BT Unleashed, like it, subscribe it. I want comments. I want engagement. I respond to a lot of comments. This is the earliest phase of building this out, okay? The studio is going to look different. The ability to have guests is going to obviously be incorporated. The ability to call into the show is eventually going to happen. So if you've been here from day one, I appreciate you. Day 2, day 3, I appreciate you. And let your buddies know, let everybody know what's happening with this. But I'm going to leave you with this on the Jet stuff. As dire as it is, and as dire as it always seems to be, this, believe it or not, even though right now they cannot control the Mendoza situation, we all know that, there are several, and I've outlined them all today, possibilities that can thrust the Jets, like their talent base and their ability to manipulate, because they're manipulating next draft no matter what. I've always said that. With 3 first-round picks, the Jets do whatever they want. Whatever they want to do, the Jets will be able to do if they've got the appetite to get rid of those picks, which is why this year, if they trade out of the second spot, if Moore comes out and they don't love Moore, even like they can then kind of recover some of those that they might trade next year to get the quarterback or do other stuff. Either way, short version, the ability for the Jets to build up their talent base is right there. It is so, and they need a ton. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but at least take some solace. I do, in the early convictions that they got the general manager hire right. I do think that Muji is the guy for the job. Now, I wish I can say that I think they got the head coach GM combo correct. I can't say that. I could say that early signs, I've seen a lot. I really haven't seen anything from Aaron, and I've seen really good early signs of Muji. He's aggressive. He's bold. He's kind of new age in terms of the business operation, in-season trades, waiver pickups. Like, he's aggressive, man. He's lifting up every rock and looking for talent, and he's already done it, all right, to an extent. But while they may have gotten that right, they may have whiffed on the coach. So they'll give Glenn one more year. I'm okay with that, unless they can strike a home run for somebody who's done the job already, and that would be giving the Jets too much credit. But the talent base, because the energy that you air out for being non-competitive the last half of the season, yeah, you want to point to Glenn, you want to point to Woody. Guys, all you have to, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to understand that the Jets were rolling out a JV roster. And you can even say, and some of you have, because I've said that before, well, I understand that, Brandon, but why haven't they been more competitive at least? Because, at least, maybe if Aaron put them in a better position to compete schematically, well, here's the one thing that you can't differentiate. And I'm not even saying that I do it better than you. I just think that you failed to incorporate this because you're so gassed up and energized at the losses and the negativity, which I also get. You can take a D player, a C- player, and off the top of my head, I would say that on defense, the Jets, the last 5, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, they rolled out at least 5 D-level players, at least. I think 70% of the entire roster is going to be flipped. That's how bad it is, man. Bad. So when you've got that kind of talent or that kind of absence of talent, what are you going to do to put those D players in a position to do their job well? They're D players for a reason. They're either a tick slow, just don't have the instincts, don't have the physical characteristics, combination of everything, whatever it might be, coming off an injury, a little bit slow, a little bit weak. I don't know. But you're a D. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't elevate with better players around you eventually. But when you're running out multiple D-level players, you're not stopping anybody. So I think where it's been hijacked here, this is where I think it's been unfair to Aaron, because the Jets were ready to play the season when they had fewer D players on the field. because Gardner was on the field and Q was on the field, and some other players who have since been hurt were at least on the field. They were ready to play Pittsburgh. They were ready to play the Bucks. They were ready to play Miami. They beat the Browns. They beat the Falcons. Like, before this thing went bang in the toilet, they were at least competitive. And I think many of you failed to incorporate that in your end of the season evaluation of Aaron Glenn. Now, I'm not saying that I'm right, because there is not much ground to stand on defending him. And I'm just contextualizing what he's done and what he's been presented with. I'm not going out there saying, please understand this, that he's the man for the job. I'm not saying that I've got great faith in Aaron Glenn. I mean, my faith is shattered. I'm terrified that they hired the wrong guy. Absolutely terrified. But I'm going to be fair to the man. I believe he is enough, like, he's well-principled, and he is enough of a leader, and, just a guy who players are going to follow. I just still believe that. And they weren't doing that with Saleh. And there was no chance in hell they were doing that with Gase. And they stopped doing it with Bowles. They stopped doing it with Rex at the end. But, I cannot say. And by the way, if I could, I would. It's not that I don't want to. I can't say, being fair to myself, the principles and the measurements that not anybody else, not Adam Schefter or anybody else who's tweeting stuff, who are great at their job, my opinion, I cannot grade him out properly, and I can't definitively say he should be fired because he is not going to be the guy. Now, I'm not saying that. What I'm also not saying is that I believe he's going to be the guy. That would be idiotic because there's no evidence. I'm in between. I'm not stamping in the guy, and I'm not kicking his ass out the door. So I'm in the middle. Now, if you're on the other side, I get it. I respect it. I'm just telling you my internal mechanisms. Like, as I lift up the hood of Jets evaluation and Giants evaluations I did for a good 25, 30 minutes earlier, that's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm feeling. All right. I will save the Knicks stuff for the YouTube stuff. I want to save some of the hot stove stuff for the YouTube stuff as well. I appreciate you guys. Oh, wow, over 5,000. Pretty good. That's a nice number right there. I appreciate it's going to. I'm being told, hold on, by my wife, she has not driven me crazy yet. Well, a little bit. What's that, honey? Just on Twitter tomorrow. Now, why is that? And how long is that going to be? Next couple days. All right. Is it in the process of being resolved? Thank you very much, baby. I appreciate it. Oh, man. So it's going to be a couple days before we're able to do the YouTube stuff. Jen, can I at least do this? If I don't go live, can I at least record something and then upload it? Oh, so this will be uploaded to YouTube. Okay, well, there you go. And Spotify as well. She is the Spotify account uploader. Like I said, all hands on deck. Hey, if it was up to me, homeschool. If it was up to me, my little guy would be homeschooled. You could help Daddy produce the show and do a little schoolwork. He's a good student, and then go hit off the tee and lift weights for the other 3 hours, right? But just make sure you're around when Daddy has to get on the air. All right, so at least that. Thank you very much, babe. At least I got some resolution. My head was spinning. Like, when I started this thing and I hit go live and put the mic on, I'm like, dude, I don't even know if I'm on the air. I don't know who's seeing this. I'm seeing comments coming in, but number one, I can't really see them because they're so small unless I put my glasses on. And I don't want to do that the first couple of minutes of the show. Not because I care how I look with glasses, because I've got to do the first couple of minutes of the show to establish the show. And I'm just seeing message, like ding, 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 ding. I'm like, oh, what's going on? People are really into the show, or people are really confused, or a combination of both. I don't know, man. Like I told you, this is a new endeavor. And as we navigate these early steps, and it has been pretty awesome so far. Today was a little bit overwhelming, but as I've learned, as I've gotten a little bit older, patience is a virtue. I am known as to, my wife knows I've got incredible patience. Never get unnecessarily worked up. Whatever, man. I mean, I'm probably wired that way a little bit, and I don't think that'll ever change. But yeah, I mean, I've grown a little bit in that regard. I'm definitely more patient than I used to be. So I'm going to have to be a little bit more patient with this, is the point. We will get this back up on YouTube. It's part of the process. And we'll just keep cranking this out. So I listen, appreciate you guys. Sorry for what happened today. It's all good. Like it, subscribe it. This, what you're watching now, this will be uploaded to YouTube. That will at least be able to be done. And then you can comment on that, get it around. We'll get the shorts out there for you once my son gets home and he can do it because I don't know how, and all that other stuff. So have an outstanding Monday. The goal, and I think that this, although not being able to go live on YouTube is obviously a little bit of an impediment here, but it is my goal, and I think it's a fairly easy one, where I want to have at least 20,000 subs by the last day in January. That is the goal. I mean, we're already at 12 something. So you guys have been great. Spread the word. Get this out there. Have an awesome Monday. Check out for the uploaded YouTube stuff. And I will keep you updated as we navigate the little snag here with YouTube, but all good. Have a great Monday. And I will catch you guys tomorrow at 10 right here on Unleashed. See you later. Bye-bye.